In the past couple of years, psychedelics have taken a quick and steady rise in popularity in all ages. People as young as 12 show an interest in them. Imagine that though, little year 7s longed out their skull in maths. Despite the many benefits they may have, given the right environment and situation specifically, this is a big and growing problem in society, especially the internet. Not particularly for the rise in popularity of the drug, but the dangerous misuse and misinformation of psychedelics. In fact, it's probably a good thing that this topic is getting more and more coverage in society, which is good for the therapy side of things and grown adults trying it out. But when drugs are criminalised, it pushes people to get them from dangerous sources and do them in harmful and uncontrolled environments. Today, people seem to decide to just jump right into them without considering any environment control or harm reduction, risking permanent and harmful brain changes. Always remember that no drug use is 100% safe and not using is always safer.
Well, I have tried LSD and I've tried mushrooms.
The psychedelics I've tried are psilocybin, LSD and DMT. Well, and ayahuasca actually, ayahuasca. But,
If you're just talking the normal like the old psychedelics, it's mescaline, LSD and shrooms.
But I've done ecstasy, MDMA, various strains of psilocybin mushrooms, long-term cannabis use.
LSD mainly, like little tabs, smoked shots. They were fun.
So I've had mushrooms and ketamine in a clinical setting. Obviously those two are both very different.
I've tried 2CE. I thought that was incredible. I tried LSD. I really enjoy that one. I've tried psilocybin. That's another favourite. Mescaline and proscaline, 2CB. There's probably more, but most of them I've enjoyed and I've had positive experiences with.
the mushrooms, almost feels like almost like a telling off. But a good one, because I found the grace in it, you know. LSD is very much freeing of the mind. It almost feels like you can be blown away by like a load of leaves because you just dissolve this ego structure. The psilocybin, I'd say, is more a grounded telling off, but a good telling off, you know, where you learn from yourself. DMT is just obliterating. Like, you become so selfless. When I say selfless, you leave this manifestation in a matter of seconds. It just dissolves this whole ego structure that you are in, like that. As LSD is a bit more of a creeper.
So one time it was my uncle lived in they called it the housing projects. So my uncle lived in the housing projects. It was probably the middle of July, scorching hot outside, and I was going to my uncle's house like I used to do a bunch of times before, and it was probably about maybe 3 or 4 young girls over there at the time, even though it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I told my uncle and the 4 girls, hey, y'all want to get high? And the answer is always yes. They're like, hell yeah, we want to get high. What do you think we're here for? I said, I got something that'll get you high. They said, what is it? I said, it's like weed, except it's this paper blotter. You eat it like chiclets, like little gum. So I gave, and my uncle at the time, I don't think he had ever, nobody except for me had ever had the LSD. So I gave everybody 3 or 4 hits apiece. Escalated, now people are filling up bowls of water and kitchen pots and pans full of water, running back and forth in the living room trying to throw water on each other, all while falling out on the floor laughing uncontrollably. After we seen that all the furniture had been disheveled in the living room, everything's drenched with water, we fall out laughing, and we're laughing uncontrollably. So we wanted to smoke some weed, and I had an ounce. But when you're on LSD, weed has no effect. So we're just rolling blunt after blunt after blunt till we smoke the whole ounce in like an hour. And so we're falling out on the floor, uncontrollable laughter, and so much commotion till it had attracted a crowd on the front sidewalk. And so in the black community, if anything different or out of the ordinary occurs on your block or in your hood, they're like, hey, y'all, come look. It wasn't a whole lot of visuals, mostly just tracers, and the walls were kind of breathing. Not a lot of visuals, but the uncontrollable laughter and hysteria. Nobody could really talk and form words. Everything came out as, came out kind of like that.
You can get caught in like not knowing what something you experienced meant. Some people, like with PTSD, can relive their experiences, and that can be really difficult for them. That's why I like very much recommend caution to people. Like, what are you expecting to get out of your experience? Like being thoughtful and mindful about that. Something that happened to me, kind of my own undoing almost. I know that like every time I take mushrooms, like I have to get up and pee a lot. I intentionally didn't drink as much water as I normally would have. I ended up getting dehydrated, and I was like, laying in the bed, and I was sweating a lot and feeling really hot. And so by then it was kind of too late. I knew I was in trouble. I was still tripping pretty hard, I think. And I wasn't sure whether I should like call for an ambulance or what I should do, because I couldn't really think clearly. So I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was dehydrated, but I managed to get to the bathroom where I had, a pitcher of water, basically. Like, it's a beer mug, so it's got a handle on it. And so I drank everything that was in that. And when I went to put it down, that's when I passed out while standing and fell back, hit my head, concussion, that kind of stuff. So that actually has set me back quite a ways in like a lot of the gains that I had made. That's like one of the things I tell people, like, be careful, make sure that you maintain your hydration, because otherwise you can end up in something like this, especially if you're alone. Like, I could have fallen down the stairs on the way to the bathroom or something instead. It could have been, way worse. So it's something that you just have to, really be careful about what kind of situation you set yourself up for.
Because I do a lot of, when I do the LSD, I don't do it sporadically. I very much do it with intent, and I often do it fasted for around 36 hours, and I meditate on it for around 10 to 12 hours. So when I do it, I virtually, it's bizarre, I almost feel like I become a portal for information. I don't brush my teeth, I don't eat, I don't literally do anything to where my body would be like, I need to repair this or digest that or get this off of me. So in the New Forest, I've done it, and I've received information about slavery, but inland slavery. And when I've done it at the coast, I received information about slavery on the merchant ships. I've written it all down, and they're really quite profound and significant. And then it's funny because I Google it after, and it's all true. And also another one where I realised that overpopulation is a thing, and that the planet's getting too heavy and further away from the sun. Like, I shit you not. And then I Googled it the next day, and it was true, man. And I was like, how the piss am I getting this information, and where am I getting it from? Another moment from deep in meditation as well. It's like I almost felt like I realigned myself completely, like found my chi, the infinite finiteness. Do you know, like, that's when you realise how infinite the finite is, as in the present moment. Yourself, it's almost like, do you know, like when you hear like some massive like tomb doors closing, like, yeah. Or like two pillars coming together, or like it's this massive like castle door closing. I felt that, heard it, and everything. It went like sort of like time, sort of went like, and then like ever since that happened, it's been like on my life's been unfolding the right way because I've realigned myself back in life.
The worst bad trip that I had was when I was maybe 21 years old, and we'd been using LSD a lot around the time. And I tried, first of all, to IV one of these trips. And after about 2 hours, not much was happening. So I thought, oh, nothing, it's not going to work. So I ate another 2. And then after another 2 hours, all 3 of them had kicked in really strong. And we were doing nitrous oxide as well. I ended up having too much nitrous, and I kind of lost myself. And I asked my friend, who's my best friend at the time, to watch over me because I was a little bit worried. And I went to lie down in my bed because I was overheating. I started shaking, and he was just like, "Oh no, man, I got to leave." And he ran off. And as soon as he left the room, I had a seizure. But it was like it was a grand mal seizure, but I stayed awake for it, and sort of had an out-of-body experience where I was confronted with a demon version of myself from the future or something like that. And when I came out of it, I went into my mum's room and I told her what had happened, and then I went and vomited my soul out into a toilet, so it felt like, and I kind of at the same time gave birth to myself again on the floor. So it felt like I was like lying as a naked baby, like on the floor of a bathroom. And then I was pretty much amnesiac for the next 6 months.
This was the very first experience I had. And I doubted it because I was only 21 when it first happened. And this was in 2011. The experience started, I had been like on this cocktail of things for days at this point, so I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I know I had smoked and I sat down to meditate, and I could feel like my whole body just trying to find its center. And then I was closing my eyes and I was just going like this, and then before I knew it, like my whole being like started to kind of ball up, and then as I'm continuing to do this, it balls up, and then I just feel this pop, and then I come out of my head. And I'm in this like dimension of the world that looked exactly the same as this, but it was like 4 feet higher than the rest of the world. And I'm in my house that I grew up in. Nobody's home at the time, it's just me and my dogs. And it's like 11 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden, I hear these like pounding footsteps coming from like down the hall, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, here I am, like in this other dimension that's like stacked on top of this one. Nobody's supposed to be here. What is going on? And I still don't necessarily see anybody, but they said, "What took you so long?" And it was like a playful question. So my guard dropped a little bit, and I said, "I don't know. I got here as fast as I could." And they handed me like a glass of water, whatever it was. I guess it was just to get myself comfortable at the time. And then we were off.
The most important thing you need to consider when taking in anything from alcohol to black tar heroin. Practicing harm reduction when tripping or using any drug is what separates a mind-healing experience from severe and otherworldly brain trauma. There are a number of ways you can reduce harm when taking psychedelics, and some have specific requirements. You can mostly use the same methods for any drug. Before obtaining your drug, make sure to buy a test kit. They're usually inexpensive and completely legal in most countries. This will ensure your drug is pure is what you've been told it is. You can spike drugs with almost anything, but mostly people use meth, ecstasy, or even heroin or fentanyl, a drug famous for killing police officers after just touching it, or just making people mong out. Make sure to bring at least one trusted sober friend, usually called a trip sitter, with you the whole time, and obviously ensure both of you have the next 8 to 19 hours free, which is when most trips last. Sometimes it can be challenging and stressful to be a trip sitter, so make sure they are quite close to you. The most important thing is initial calmness. Make sure to maximise this. Control your environment. Make sure it's somewhere familiar, not somewhere dangerous like a rooftop or a mountain. And it sounds weird, but be sure to tidy the room you're in. But it's better to clean the entire house. The mess will worry and frighten you. Any slight thing that can upset you or worry you in any way should be hidden, because the slightest mood change can just ruin your whole experience. Especially if you have like horror movie posters, for example, get rid of it. You're not hard, you just shit yourself scared. If you do end up being scared or start to have a bad trip, don't worry, you can always change your mood and turn things around. If you listen to music, which you should do, skip through your playlist until you find something nicer that helps with your mood. You can also go to another room or just straight up leave the gaff and go walking. Total environment change will help a lot, and the outdoors can always be nice, especially when you're on something. The worst people are those who take the piss when they're with someone on psychedelics. Waving their fingers in your face, can you feel it yet? Is my face melting? Whether they're aware of it or not, it's extremely harmful and just annoying. People in particular can easily ruin a trip. If you're trip sitting for someone, just act normal, calm and unbothered. Just make sure that when you decide to do psychedelics, carefully choose who to do it with, and make sure at least one of you is sober. Being with friends while you try psychedelics can either be the best experience or the worst. LSD, the most popular psychedelic thanks to the 60s and now thanks to TikTok. Popularly called acid, as it almost always comes in little bits of paper, either dipped, damped or dropped with acidic compound. If you decide to take acid, you're going to piss a lot. Be sure you're near a toilet or a well-hidden bush. Shrooms or mushrooms, another one of the most popular psychedelics, and its name suggests they come in mushroom form. You can eat them or infuse them with tea to get the effects. Some people put them in their fucking sarnies. If you decide to go shroom picking, which many people including myself strongly advise against, make sure you know what you're doing. There are identical imposters out there, so you just need to be meticulously careful. Ideally, don't pick them.
Mushrooms, it doesn't give you that feeling of, okay, it's been, 7 hours, I really need to get my fix again. It's been 2 weeks since my last great trip and I'm not ready for a big one. So even if I could go down the street and buy mushrooms right now, I wouldn't, because I'm not ready.
Start thinking bad. Start thinking about a stupid little thing that will bug you, and then that'll manifest.
Make sure that you're with people who are experienced with the substance. And if you don't have anyone who is experienced with the substance, the best tip I can give you is to make sure that you're with good people overall, who are also interested in trying the experience, like your best friend or your group of best friends, or a very tightly knit group of friends where you basically know everything about each other, or if the trip ends up good, you will eventually know most of the stuff about each other. About what your troubles are, about what makes you tick, what makes you happy and stuff like that. They need to know that to be able to make it the best trip for you. You also get to know each other in a new way when you're tripping, because everybody acts a little bit differently. Even though you knew each other very well before the experience, you're gonna know each other even better after the experience. But yeah, good people, good setting. Make sure that you have fruit. Fruit's a great thing to have. If you need to eat something or just want to taste something, fruit is the best way to go. No junk food. And also stay hydrated during the entire trip.
You have a good group of friends, happy, not got no cares. I wouldn't say go ahead and do it, but well, I would actually.
I hate to sound cliches, but it really is about set and setting. I mean, just imagine being on LSD and you're not in control of your faculties necessarily. Everything looks different, and you're in an unsafe place, or a perceived unsafe place. You're around strangers or an environment that can be terrifying and traumatizing. You can't be tired on mushrooms. You can't can't be in a negative headspace. Like, you can't have a lot of worries and stress on your mind because all of that will be magnified. But if you're happy, in a happy place, you're thinking happy thoughts, then that'll be magnified also. But
I can see the point of having them in a clinic setting, but I would like to see them legalized so I can go buy mushrooms in the store without any kind of prescription or anything like that. But I can definitely see that a prescription way of doing it might be a segue into being able to sell it in a store. But yeah, I think it's an experience that should be available to more people, especially in countries where it's illegal, like here. It makes it difficult, and it also makes you talk with some people that you don't really want to hang out with. Some kind of sketchy people selling mushrooms off the street. It's how you get your mushrooms, or you find a dealer somewhere that can get you your stuff.
So I think that the media is too wound up in things that they don't need to be involved in. And I don't think that I don't know if there will ever be a reasonable shift into media perspective on psychedelics unless there is a lot more access to it and it becomes a better business opportunity.
I do believe they're made illegal because they don't want people realising themselves. They don't want people realising the dishonour that's being put on us. They don't want us realising that we're living in sin. Yeah, they're made illegal because they work and they free the mind and they go against society's consumerist narrative. To make them legal, I'd say yes, but in a controlled way. A lot of people use them in an uneducated way, which can potentially lead to psychosis or whatever. But that's only because it's not in an educated, so no intent kind of beginning, so to speak, when they take it.
Decriminalised, definitely. Why? Well, if they actually legalised it, same as all drugs, then they can tax it, and then the tax they use from that can go into the rehabilitation centres, which they know they're going to need, taking the strain off the NHS and everything else. It makes sense to legalise any. Well, yeah, it does.
Whatever the purpose is for taking psychedelics, whether it be to open your mind and discover the universe, relax, or just get high, they can always be dangerous. Although you can go through life pretending to be cool by smoking whatever you get sold by Dodgy Dave down the road, there will always be health and mental health risks for anyone who tries any drugs. What's this? You gonna get it? What's that?
Hey, so are you not from London?
No, I'm from really south down in the UK.
Because I don't detect that old Cockney accent. Thank you very much and all that jazz. Yes.
You're stuck
You
up.
sound like you got the same accent as Prince Harry. Give me your best American accent. Go for it.
I used to be really good at it. Yo, so here I am with I'm at Wendy's. I don't know. I can't do it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I love it.
I used to do it
I'm
all
my
the
best
time.
British accent.
Go on.
I'm from quite proper. Chop chop.
You got it spot on, man.